Welcome, devoted hearts who tune in to every tremor of Turkish stardom. Welcome back to the living room where whispers turn into clarity and we savor every nuance with the care it deserves. You are on Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Today we're stepping directly into the eye of a media whirlwind that has kept millions breathless. At the center stands a man whose name has long been shorthand for magnetism, elegance, and a gaze that lingers in memory, Baris Arduç. His private world has always been the foggiest corner of the map, a place of murmurs and contradictions, an endless parade of rumors rising and fading with striking speed. We chased answers, longed for certainty, waited for his voice. At last, the waiting ends. Baris has chosen to lower that carefully built veil and, for the first time, share the shape of his heart. Who is she? How did he reveal it? What did he let slip that changes everything? Sit tight. We're about to walk line by line through a confession that feels like cinema. Before we begin, a quick favor that keeps this family alive: subscribe now, tap the bell so you never miss a beat, and if you want to join our inner circle and power our investigations, don't hesitate to press that big subscribe button. Your support is the spine of this channel. A like is a warm embrace, a comment is your voice in the room. Ready to discover the truth about Baris's love? Pour your tea, get comfortable, and let's begin. Friends of Turkish Spotlight Secrets, to grasp the force of what has just been said, we need to travel back. Months, some would say years, of fervent speculation piled up like waves on a restless shore. Since his meteoric rise through projects that lit up screens everywhere, from the cultural phenomenon Karalık Aşk to the intensity of Kuzgun and the sweeping epic of Alparslan, Baris stood not just as a leading man but as a cipher people longed to read. He posted, he dazzled, he vanished behind carefully curated glimpses, but his heart remained the one room no one could enter. The world, eager to embrace the man beyond the roles, craved a scrap of truth. Inevitably, names were attached to him, imaginations ran wild, and the list of supposed flames grew longer than any credits roll. Time and again, whispers thinned into mist. Time and again, the faithful stayed strapped into a roller coaster of promise and denial, anticipation and fatigue. And yet, something shifted. Recently, there were signals, soft, easily missed unless you knew where to look. People close to the actor, guarding their proximity like treasure, hinted at a chapter being written in quiet ink. Interviews abroad contained glimmers, light slipping through keyholes. There was talk of a bond built not on red carpet echoes but on steady ground. It sounded like more than a summer sparkle, more than a fleeting spark in heavy winds. Still, as we all know, nothing is real until the person at the center carries the words themselves. That moment, the one where rumor cedes to reality, has finally arrived, and we're here to pull it apart with care and precision, because that's what you come here for. In a twist worthy of the best melodramas he's headlined, Baris decided to open the door himself. He didn't choose the safe, rehearsed route. He spoke like someone who had been cleaning the room for ages and now wanted to invite everyone in. Across interviews in different countries, in thoughtful conversations with various outlets, and through his own platforms where his voice can't be edited by anyone else, he shared with a candor that startled even the most seasoned observers. Gone were the evasions, the playful non-answers, the artful sidesteps that only created more hunger. The message was plain and luminous. There is love in his life, and he's ready to let it breathe in the open air. So, who captured the heart of this rarefied star, who has captured millions with a subtle smile and that stillness that suggests deeper waters? Rumors had pointed in 100 directions, as if trying to map a constellation with too many stars. But clarity arrived in a way that made hearts beat faster because it felt undeniable. If this had merely been a co-star spotted once or twice, we might have shrugged and said it's nothing. If it had been a private figure, a quiet soul who slipped in off stage, perhaps the mystery would have remained intact. Instead, the answer landed with a tenderness that melted the last bits of doubt: Elsin Sangu. Not as a fantasy concocted by a fandom that fell in love with their on-screen alchemy, but as the woman who, according to his own words, brings him a sense of peace he didn't know he was missing. The surprise wasn't in the name, it was in the way he chose to say it. What distinguishes this revelation isn't only who she is, but how he framed the story. What came through, crystalline and warm, was a hunger for honesty. It felt like a man at a crossroads refusing to be a silhouette anymore. He talked about admiration that goes beyond beauty shots and magazine spreads, about a connection woven out of shared hours, silly jokes, and serious vows that have nothing to do with cameras. He described a shoulder to lean on when the lights are too hot and a companion who knows both the noise and the quiet of his world. He didn't paint fireworks, he described a hearth, steady, constant, there when the door shuts and the world recedes. That is not the language of a fling. It's the vocabulary of foundation. The most disarming element of his confession was the way he described what exists between them. Not a flash, not a seasonal chapter, not a postcard romance. He spoke of values that align, of plans that stretch beyond award seasons and premiere calendars. He suggested that his focus sharpened because his heart no longer needed to sprint in every direction. He hinted that the emotional balance he's found allows him to create with more clarity and to rest without fear that everything will topple as soon as he closes his eyes. He sounded grateful, too, and that gratitude stayed in the room long after the interviews ended. He used phrases that made people pause, like, "She fills spaces I didn't realize were empty," and, "With her, there's no mask, just the version of me that feels true." Those aren't just good lines, they're windows. Of course, questions bloomed like wildflowers. What does this mean for an image that has often traded on mystery? Would declaring love shrink his appeal, erect a fence between him and the fans who cherish their own imagined stories? The early answer, drawn from a flood of reactions, is the opposite. Audiences aren't shying away, they're leaning closer. There's something magnetic about a star who sets aside the armor and says, "Here I am." The comments arrived like confetti. Heartfelt congratulations, emotional thank yous, and a chorus of people recognizing that the man they admire wants something deeply human, to love and be loved without apology. Sure, there are always dissenters or the perpetually curious who want every minute detail mapped and measured, but the roar, unmistakably, is one of joy. The online whirlwind was immediate, as expected. Fan pages posted clips. Timelines swelled with collages from Kerala-esque days, side by side with recent moments where their glances seemed to carry extra meaning now that we know what we know. Meanwhile, opinion pieces tried to chart a cause and effect on his career. Would openness dim the glow? Yet the prevailing sentiment tagged across languages was that authenticity is the most persuasive brand of all. In revealing himself, not just the actor, but the person, Baris expanded the bridge, not narrowed it. He met the gaze of those who have walked with him project after project and said, "Thank you, here's a part of my life I've held tender and I trust you with it." And so a wall is down. The careful silence that long encircled Baris' Arduç's private universe has been replaced by a steady, warm light. He chose to tell us his heart is full, and he chose to name the woman who shares it, Elsin Sangu. What we learn from his own words is not that he's chasing a trend or riding a wave. Rather, he has found a connection that hums with meaning, a love that lets him be both stronger and softer. He took the brave path of inviting us closer, revealing a human, vulnerable side that resonates across borders. As always, we at Turkish Spotlight Secrets will stay with this story, following its chapters with care, compassion, and the devotion you expect from us. If this journey touched you, leave your like, share it with those who still believe in the endurance of love, and don't forget to subscribe and consider the subscribe option to help us keep telling the stories that matter to your hearts. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next video, where Turkish magic never fades. See you soon.